Okay, we're up to Chaf Ches Amid Beis. Chaf Ches Amid Beis. And we went through the Mishnah was describing how the person would go up to the roof and check out to see if the eastern sky was lit up all the way to Chevron. And the Mishnah said, why did they do that? Because one time they mistook moonlight for sunlight and they shechted the carbon tamid. Yeah, and they shechted the carbon tamid before it's man, and they had to go ahead and bring it out to the base of Sreifa. So that's what occurred. So therefore, they went through this thing. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months from the bottom of Chav Ches in the base. Beautiful blot, as the rest of the Daf Yomi, beautiful blot tonight. Why did they do this? They go through the whole protocol about making a mistake between sunlight and moonlight. Fred the Gemara. Can you possibly go ahead and make a mistake between sunlight and moonlight? How can you make that mistake? Mendel. Can you make a mistake between? How can you make a mistake between sunlight and moonlight? How can you make such a mistake? But Tanya, Rabbi Yomer, Eina Doima, they're not comparable. Tima Shel Levana, Latima Shel Chama. The column of light of the moon is not similar to the column of light of the sun. Tima Shel Levana, Masmev Oila Kemakal. The sunlight, moonlight of the Levana, it goes straight up like a stick. And Tima Shel Chama, and the light of the sun, maftzia lekan lekan, it spreads out like to this and this place. So in other words, good, there was light, but l'chora, how is it possible to mistake because of the distinct difference between the light? You should have been able to tell the difference and not mistakenly being the carbon earlier. Says the Gemara, Tanid Rabbi Yishmael says Tanid Yishmael, Yom HaMa'unin Haya. It was a Yom HaMa'unin. It was a cloudy day. And as a result, the moonlight, it spread to here and there, and therefore it mimicked sunlight. A cloudy day, kula shimsha. On a cloudy day, kula shimsha, that there's light all over the place. The sun is all over the place. In other words, we see from a cloud what happens, it dissipates all over the place. Good? So Mamela, if it's a cloudy day, the sun is all over the place. You're going to go ahead and spread out your leather to go ahead and dry. Even if it's not in the sun, it's going to dry. Don't they say like on a cloudy day, the sun rays? No, it's not only hot. I think it's dangerous, right? The rays of the sun are more dangerous.
You don't know you're getting burned. You don't feel
it. Inami, l'chedidarish rava, isha like tolush, a woman on Pesach when making matzah, like tolush, she shouldn't go ahead and knead loy bechama, not in the sun, or not water that's heated from the sun, because again you're unaware of the heat, and as a result it's going to go ahead and become a chametz. Rav Nachman, suhama the shimsha, the heat through the clouds, koshi mishimsha, are more harder than the shemesh itself. The ultraviolet rays coming through the clouds are worse than the sun itself. The simonach, and the simon is dona dechala, a cover of vinegar. In other words, if you go ahead and vinegar is covered up and you release it, then it's going to have very, pungent, very powerful odor. So if the sun is what is contained by the cover of the cloud, whenever you see it, it comes out very strong. So the simon of a sun on a cloudy day is a vinegar cover. And now the Gemara digresses and it goes into a whole bunch of different simanim of different things. Very fascinating. Mm-hmm. Says, shviri, blindness, at the shimsha, kasha mishimsha. The blindness is what? Is more kasha than the shimsha. The simunecha, and the simon is dalfa, water that's dripping. The dalfa water is, Rashi says, kasha delef hayored ala adam, nichnas kol guf lamayim. If a drip, it's harder on the person than if the whole body gets immersed in water. What? Chinese water torch, right?
Water torch of the drip.
You were mechaber to Benji, whatever that's worth. No, but
I take it back. I made a mistake.
Okay. Anyway, so I was thinking, right, the dripping on an air conditioner. They were trying to sleep. That's worse than when it rains heavy. The drip. Anyway, so it shares more. Some more comparisons. Hihura avera, typhus notion that a person thinks about is kosher me'avera. It's even more than avera. She says, "Taivus nashim kosher lahachrish es bisroi." It has a more detrimental effect on a person's flesh. Yoisem megufu shalmais than the act itself. The simunecha is reicha de bisra. The simunecha is someone smells roasted meat. That's even more kosher. Like, you smell it. Sometimes a good barbecue. It's like you walk by, you smell up or something. You know something's happening.
Cowboy steak.
Shalhi de kaita, the summer, the end of the summer is kosher mikaita. The heat that is worse than the summer itself. The simunech is tanura shigra, a heated up oven. When an oven is heated up, it's ready to get it's hotter. So when at the end of the summer, all the elements, all the ground and the water and everything's been heated up. So what? It's when the sun heat at the end of the summer is hotter than the beginning or during the summer. Ishasa this sisva of fever, sisva in the winter, kosher midikaita is more severe in a person than a fever in the summer. The simunecha is tanura karira, a cold tanner, right? A cold tanner, so a cold winter. Migmar ba'at tikta, to go ahead and learn something that is old and you forgot. This kosher mecharata is more difficult than new. Something that you learned and you forgot, to go ahead and get it back is more difficult than learning anew. Rashi says, "Migma ba'atika kosher mecharato mishalomed v'sichu daito." Someone learned something and he's meisach das. He can review it. V'shokach and he forgot it. Kosher lachs of lumad. It's more difficult to go back and learn masha shokach yosim masha shloi lamad. To learn something new is easier than to learn something that you forgot. I forgot. Says the Gemara Vayta. Why? I would suggest that when you learn something new, view your head as like a new piece of paper, it's clean slate. So when you learn something it's written on a clean piece of paper. But if you learn something already and you forgot it, so it's erased. So there, it's harder to go ahead and get it back. It's not the same. That's why young children, we have girsa di yankusa. When things that you remember, why do you remember things that you remember when you were young? Because it was a clean slate. The simunecha, and what's the siman is tina bartina. You make cement from new cement, or you make cement from old cement. If you make new cement, it's stronger. If you make cement from old cement, it's not as good. The same thing. If you learn something old, right, you forget it, then it's more difficult. Okay. Anyway, that's the simanim over here. Now the Gemara goes ahead and does something very interesting. The Gemara wants to know, my timer, what's the reason that the sun, it goes out? What's the reason that it spreads out like antlers? Now, I don't know why you need a raya for this, right? It's a mitzias. It's a mitzias. You see it. So we'll see a pshat. Anyway, my time with the Rebbe. What's the reason for Rebbe? Again, Rebbe is the one who said there's a difference between the sun and the moon, the sun being like a stick, a straight stick of light, and the moon being the sun being more spread out. The Chsiv says Lamatseach al Ayelas Hashachar. Lamatseach, the song for the conductor, al Ayelas Hashachar. That's the name of a musical. Lamatseach al Ayelas Hashachar. Ma Ayola, just like a Ayola Zu, Karneha Mifatzilos. Just like this Ayola, its horns spread out. Lakan lakan. Av Shachazu Mavtzil lakan lakan. So too, the morning it spreads out lakan lakan. So I'm sure if my son Moshe was listening, I know he is, he would tell you that if you look at a female deer, they don't have horns. Only the males have horns, right? A buck. Rebbe called you an alt the buck. That's an old deer, right? So in fact, Rashi brings that. Says Rashi, Ayolazu lav dafka nakat, shari ein karnehol in the keva. There's no kanayim to in the keva. There's no, but again, if you view the antler as it spreads out on the head and spreads directionally, so too what the sun spreads directionally. So there's the kasha over here is why do we need a pasuk to tell me that the sun's rays spread out? It's a mitzias. It's a physical thing. So the Sfas Emes says the raya is that I think from the words ayala shashacha, you want to bring a raya to what we call the alois hashacha, why it's called shacha, why it's called morning. So that's the raya. That's really what the raya is. It's coming to prove that. Says the Gemara, Lama. I'm going to say Lama nimshla Esther la ayala. Why was Esther compared to an ayala? Loy malachama ayala rachmat sar. Just like an ayala rachmat sar. The rechem is what is very, very narrow. The chaviva al baila kol shah v'shah k'shah rishayna. Af Esther hoysa chaviva al achashverosh kol shah v'shah k'shah rishayna. Esther was a married woman. Right? She was a married woman. He was looking for a basula. She was a married woman, so it would make a lot of sense that she was like compared to Yola Shach that Achashverosh should find what an Achas Ruach his taiva. So Amr of Asi Lama Nimshla Esther l'Shachar. Why is Esther compared to the Shachar? My Shachar slave kol alayla, just like Shachar is the end of the night. Af Esther slave kol nisim. So too Esther was the end of the nisim. So in fact, Chanukah. What do you say was the end of Nisan? It was Chanukah. And the Gemara nichta lichtov combine. We want the things that we want nichtov to go ahead and be written. Now, Hanichalaman Yoma Esther lichtov, very good. Esther was given to be written over. Very good. You have good teretz. Alaman Yoma Esther lo yinitam lichtov ma'ikol and meimar. But that it means that Esther was not written as to be a chelik of the Tanakh, right? Esther was not written to be a chelik of Tanakh. Tosis in Megillah. When it says Esther wasn't supposed to be written, it doesn't mean she wasn't to be written likrois. You can read the Megillah, but it won't be considered part of the Tanakh. It won't be part of Ksuvim. That's machloikas. When it says over here whether she was supposed to be written or not, was it supposed to be written and be part of Tanakh or not part of Tanakh? Written to be likrois is not machnashais. Anyone could write to write, but I'm saying it was considered part of Ksuvim or not. So it says Mukila Kreb Binyam. So why was it called? I was what's the difference in Chanukah? Why not? Mukila Kreb Binyam Bayaf is some of Laza. Number of Binyam Bayaf is some of Laza. Lama Nimshlut Filasan Shadikim Kayala. Why is the tefillah of a tzaddikim compared to ayala, and then shach will be the lashon of tefillah? As long as the ayala grows, the antlers grow. It grows right. I think that you can tell the age by the amount of different curves. After tzaddikim calls man shemar b'tefillah tefillah nishmas. Let's see some Rashi's over here. Says Rashi, Lama nimshla Esther kayala m'sechta Megillah. I mean, in the Esther, Esther said, since she came to the house of a worship of Avodah Zarah, some Rashi say, what did she say? Keli lama zaftani, Keli lazav right? And that's Esther's the one who said that, and that is in that capital to Tillim. Hanichem plucked the Masech Megillah. Iklam that the Megillah is Matam Yadayim, and we had guys in Shabbos. Remember the Yudches Gezeris. One of the Gezeris was that they were Matam Svarim. Okay, so what's Nafkamina? If it had a din of Megillah, then it's Matama. If it didn't have a Megillah, then it's a din of a book, and it's not Matama. Right? That's not considered a sefer. So Muki Lak Rebbe Yom Yefes. That man Yom is just like Rebbe Yefes Kleimar. Dorish Lahai Shachar Rebbe Yom. That's Shachar like what? Not like Binyan Mayafis is what tefillah. Lam nimshla tefillah shadikim. The high shachar lashon tefillah. Who? Darshlu k'mayruchi bekirbi ashacharecha. I will beseech you. So lashon in Yeshaya ashacharecha. The sherish is what shin chesresh. So we see a lashon beseech mid lashon tefillah. Shach is a lashon tefillah. Lamatzeach al tefillah shehi kayala. Shekol zman shemagedelis kainah maftzila is b'chol shana b'shana. Nice is what pitzalecha. It's on another point. Okay, so now we have a digression from a digression. We went from moonlight to sunlight to antlers to tefillah to Megillas Esther, and now back to what? Okay, now let's go look back at the Mishnah, guys. Look back at the Mishnah. Chav Ches Amar Aleph. So there was a question what they said, what lashon they said. Did they say Bakai, Ola Bakai, here comes of Mizrach? And then it says why? Why they say this? One time, they thought it was the sun. The shachtu es atamid, and Vaitzil Beis HaSreifa, and Haridu Kohen Gadol Beis HaTfilah. Now, if you look at the Mishnah, it appears as if what? The connection between the tefillah of the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur was somehow connected to what? To the Maisa where they blew it vis-a-vis the Shechita, right? You go through it. They blew the Shechita. Of course, they thought it was sunlight, and it ended up being moonlight, and they brought the Kohen Gadol down to the base of Shechita. The Gemara says, wants to know what's going on over here. L'chaira, one has nothing to do with the other. Says the Gemara. Amos, when did this happen? If you're telling me that this, guys, happened during the rest of the days of the year, that they blew the carbon the rest of the days of the year, like Sagya the Lav Kohen Gadol. So yeah, the rest of the days of the year is not enough. You need a Kohen Gadol to do the Avodah. How do you do? They blew it the rest of the days of the year. Not Yom Kippur. They put the Kohen Gadol down to the mikvah. The Kohen Gadol doesn't have to work the rest of the days of the year. So Ella must be happening by Yom Kippurim. Now, if it happened in Yom Kippur, it happens at the beginning of the month. There's no Or Levana. Or Levana is the end. So how can it be? And the Gemara Hachikam, here's what happened. Ubiyom Kippurim, ki Oma Barak Barkai. In other words, they said it all the days of the year. Why? Because they blew it all the days of the year. And when they said Barak Barkai on Yom Kippur, at that point they put the Kohen Gadol in the mikvah. So it isn't like a one shot. In other words, it happened during the year. And during the year, they would always ask. They would ask all the time. And on Yom Kippur, when they would ask, that is the point in time in our protocol of what's happening in Yom Kippur. That was the first feel of the Kohen Gadol. That was the first feel. So that's the way you learn Pshat. So Hachi Kamar. That happened during the day of the year, because one time they blew it. Good. And a continuation. Ubi Yom Kippurim, and on Yom Kippur, Kiyama Barak Barkai, which they said every single day of the year. On Yom Kippur, when they said that particular lashon, Hayridu Kohen Gadol Beis HaTfilah, they brought the Kohen Gadol down to the Beis HaTfilah at that point in time. Tana Avua de Reb Avin, Loizu Bilvad Amru. Now, Tani, guys, is important. Tani is a lashon of you learned in a brisa. Tani Avua de Reb Avin, Loizu Bilvad Amru, Ela Af Malika Sa'oif Ukemitzas Mincha Balayla Tisaref. Okay, this is a very kachim dika blat. Guys, let's outside. Let's do a little, we have time. Let's do a little introduction, okay? We know that there are 4 avodas hadam. There's shchita, kabbalah, halacha, and zrika. There's the shechting of the animal. There's the kabbalah of the dam. There's bringing of the dam, and there's zrika. Good? That's what we know. In addition, there's a bird called an oilas soif and a chata soif. But instead of shchita, you did something called malika. The kohen would hold the bird, and with his right thumb, right, he would penetrate the back of the bird with his thumb, go through the neck bone, make it a treifa, in fact, then go ahead and sever the trachea and the esophagus. That's what we call nevela in the Medina. It's called malika in the Beis Hamikdash. Shchita does not work in the Beis Hamikdash for a bird, only malika, and it's one of the more difficult avodas. And more difficult about this. Good. So malika is the equivalent to shchita. What shchita is to an animal, malika is to a bird. In addition, there was a carbon called the carbon mincha, and the carbon mincha also had 4 avodas. Guys, you did a kmitza from a bowl of flour, or sometimes fried, depending on a different type of mincha. You would take this amount, you would go like this and like this, and whatever there is in between the 3 fingers is called a kmitza. That's equal to shchita. Then you put that in a kli, that's kabbalah. You bring it to the mizbeach, that is halacha. You burn it, that's zrika. So that's the parallel between the mincha and the carbon and shchita. So now, not only is shchita in the wrong time going to ruin the animal, like this case where they went ahead and did it at night. What happens if you do a malika at night? What happens if you do a kmitza at night? Says Reb Avohu the following: Loizu bilvad amru. Not only by the shchita in the wrong time does it pass to the animal, the carbon. Ela'af malika sa'oif. If you do malika to an oif, be it an oilas sa'oif or a chata sa'oif, ukemitzas mincha, Belaila tisaref. It has to be what? It has to be burnt. It has to be burnt, meaning it's the carbon is not good, right? Look at Rashi. Belaila tisaref. The gemiri lahu mishchita. The malika soif. The kamitzas mincha. The malcham shchita says vachem heim. So Rashi said in one line. I said in 2 minutes, right? Right. There's equivalence. So just like shchita is not going to be good, the malika won't be good, and the kmitza won't be good. That's what he said. Now, bishleim, guys, so far so good. Okay, now bishleim oila sa'if, very good oila sa'if. My hava. What's good done is done. There's no bringing the bird back to life, just like there's no bringing back the animal to life. What's done is done. Ela koimitz nahader. The koimitz, why don't you put it back? Unahader nikmatz b'yama and go back during the day. Okay, guys, another introduction. Let's go through it again. Guys, look at me. Here's the way it would work a carbon mincha. You say it's a pami to bring a carbon mincha. You can do one of two things. You could separate money for the carbon, or you could separate flour for the carbon. Okay, let's say you separate flour for the carbon. That flour now has what's called kedushas domim. It's kodesh for its value. If you don't want to bring it, you take money and you pay it. You say whatever kedusha is on that flour should now be what on that money. That's called kedushas domim. You would bring that flour to the Beis Hamikdash and they put it in a kli shares, a kli that has been kaddish through its being worked. The original kalim were kaddish through the Mashiach of the Shem and Mishra of Moshe. The future kalim through their action being used, they worked. Now, at this point in time, when you put it in a kli shares, it has something called kedushas aguf. It's not only kaddish for what? For its value, it's intrinsically kaddish. You can't be paid there. Kedushas damim does not contract tuma from a tful yoim or mechusik kippurim. Kedushas haguf would contract tuma. If a tful yoim or mechusik kippurim would touch the flour, it would be tummy. Good. So that's the difference between the two. Fred the Gemara now Akasha. You just told me you do a shechita at night fafalin. You do a malika at night fafalin, right? You do a kamitza at night. Why don't you go ahead and just put it back? It's nighttime. What you did is nothing. So here's the question is like, why shouldn't you be able to correct it? Why does the Avud Reb Oven say that what? It's puzzle. Beis HaSreifa. Why does it go to Beis HaSreifa? You could redo it. Nahader says Lashon Gemara. Nahadra, let's go back. Unahader and put it back. V'nikmat sabiyama and go ahead during the day and redo it. Guys, you hear the kasha? You don't hear so.
Maybe touch about now once you did it.
Where's the asabana?
Why do you have to burn the other ones? I mean,
the other ones, there's no going back. You ruined them. In other words, I can't bring the animal back to life and I can't bring the bird back to life. But why can't I redo the action? In other words, since it's not the right zman, shalom, why don't we just view the action as nothing? If you would go ahead and shake a lulav now, would it be yaitz in the mitzvah? So why am I doing a kamitza now? Why is it puzzle? It's not the time for kamitza, right? So why can't you redo it? That's the kasha.
Where are you putting it back into?
In the klisharis, right?
It's already for that reason you bring them until you put it in the klisharis. Now you're saying I'm not going to use that mincha anymore.
I didn't say no. I will use it. I'll do it. Why not? The next morning I'll use it. I'll use it the next morning. I designate when. When I'm going to bring a carbon mincha. Good. So now here's my carbon. Here's my flour. It's in a klisharis. In a time when you can't bring it, I do a kamitza. No good, burn. Why? Since it was a time that it was no good, just put it back. Bishlema by Malika, I can't make the bird. I can't know tchias hamesim by the bird. There's no tchias hamesim by the animal. The Gemara is asking, why can't I go ahead? Again, why not? Why is there no backsies? Why is there no backsies on this?
Same as there's no backsies with the shechita.
No, but that act of shechita, there really would be backsies. I just can't bring it back to life.
The shot is not that you kill the animal and you can't go back to life. The shot is that you kill the animal at the wrong time, and that's why you can't go back. It's not the fact that it can't go back to.
So you want to say that what? That when I kill the animal,
It's not that I can't go back because it's a dead animal. I can't go back because I shot it at the wrong time.
bishlei moilas oif might have a hava. What's that? What does that mean?
That would be like the carbon.
What does that mean? It means by you did. I mean, it's not going back. It's not like what? Okay, you're just speaking again. I need a svar. Give me a svar. Again, I need a svar.
When you take it before, you take the animal like you brought the carbon target. You brought it before the Zman. So then the mission says you brought it to the.
So why does it go to the base of Sreifa? Why does it go to the base of Sreifa before this man?
Because it wasn't Bisman.
Good. So in other words, so why can't I redo it?
Because it's already you already used it for.
But no, that's not what it says. It says my have I can't because it's dead. No, again, you are viewing it that I did it shlei bisman, that it's puzzle. The Gemara is asking, it's not puzzle. The Gemara is saying is you did it shlei bisman, you did nothing, and the reason you can't go ahead and the reason it's puzzle is because you can't do anything with it. You can't do anything with the bird. You can't do anything with the animal. But I do have an option with the flower. I can put it back.
When you did the
nothing, isn't there some sort of kedusha that comes onto it?
Not it's kaddish. No, that but the timing is everything. I didn't say it's not kaddish anymore. It's kaddish. Why not?
You're going to pull that out next time.
Again, I did good, very good. It's still kaddish. It's always kaddish. It's kaddish complete shot. I don't have to pull it. The one that I put out is nothing. I don't have to pull out the same one. It's nothing. Since it wasn't this man, I did nothing. There's nothing. I did nothing. That's the kasha of the Gemara. I did nothing. It's not braver. I don't have to put out the same granules again. I did nothing.
If you did nothing, then how come when you're putting the carbon at the wrong time, you have to burn it? You did nothing. Use.
Correct. So since I bought it at the wrong time, I did nothing. But what option do I have?
Use it.
It's dead.
Sell it, mistake.
But you can't.
Why?
It's kaddish.
But you did nothing.
What? No, I did nothing. I did nothing vis-a-vis bringing a carbon, but the carbon is kaddish. It has to do. It's designated as a carbon.
You said in the
yeah.
past that the lila, you can't bring a carbon at night, but only because it's nighttime.
Okay. So now we have already a little lumdus. Believe it or not. Dove, wake up! Dove, wake up! Dove, wake up! We have lumdus and Benji. Now we have lumdus. So now,
I'm not here in person to see that.
Okay, here he is. How do you view nighttime? Do you view nighttime as nothing, or do you view nighttime as something? In other words, vayi erev vayi vayker. And really, what is the time? But, so that's what you guys were hovering around it. In other words, you guys were hovering around it, but Eretz Gezak, he said it. In other words, don't view it as nothing. It's something. There's a legal loophole that stops that something from working, but it's something. Memela, that something stops me from going ahead and putting what? The mincha back. Okay, let's see it inside. We'll see it inside. We'll see with Rashi. Who tanila? Who avu the Rabbi Oven asked this kasha? For who amala? And he gave us the teretz. Klishares mikatshin afilu shaloi bismanoi. The klishares is magdish afilu shaloi bismanoi. Pirish, guys, watch. Look at me. When he took the koimitz and he put it in the klishares, it's magdish that klishares shaloi bismanoi. Meaning, it's kaddish. I can't bring it. That's a separate issue. I can't bring it, but it's kaddish. Once that kli sharis is kaddish, what does it make the kli I took it from? It makes what's called shirayim. I can't go ahead. Once something shirayim, you can't use it anymore. Once it's shirayim, you can't use it anymore. That's what happened over here. Says Rashi, Hu tanila lahamas nisan. Hu Rabbi Avo, the father of Oven, asked the kasha from Malika and Malika and Kamitza. Who the Amala high tirutz midaita. He said the same svar. This is what he said his own das. Isharis mekanshin shalei bizmanoi. V'hakoimitz toyem matan kli. In order for the koimitz to work, you got to put it in a kli. You need the Kabbalah, right? The kivin shekiddush hakaimitz bekli l'shem kaimitz. Since the kaimitz was put in a kli, it has the name of a kaimitz now. Eina chayzel liyos taval kemincha tevel kemincha shaloi nikmitza. It doesn't return to be what like a tevel, like a mincha that was never had kmitza done. Val korchei me'achash ezeh kara kaimitz. Since that is called a kaimitz, enoch, the rest of the flour is shirayim, and mainly you can't put it back. You can't put it back. Yes.
You could do covers, you could put it directly on the fire, you don't need it from showers.
Yeah, who said? Okay. Again, whatever. Again, the way to do it is to put it in that. If there's a yaitz, the question is, if you do it, are you yaitz or not? Or what's the way to do it? Okay, so that's good, right? That's the normal way. Yes. Question: if you don't do it, okay, good. Sugya in minachas, but question: but what's the normal way of doing it? Put it in the kli. So guys, look at me. Once you put it in the kli at nighttime, so now it's kaddish. I can't bring it. It's like halacha, right? It's a separate thing. You can't do it at night, right? I shechted the animal. If it's a good shechita, right? It really is a good carbon, but loophole, it's night. So Memela, once this again, I'm taking this from a bigger kli. Now, what's the answer? Take this and put it back. This big kli with the rest of the flour in it, that's shirayim. You can't use that anymore. And that's the answer to the kasha. So he asked the kasha and he answered the kasha. What was the kasha? Shchita, you can't go back. Malika, you can't go back. Mincha, you can go back. And tomorrow you can't go back there either. Because your kamitza, once it's done, that's it. That's the teretz. Who tani lavu amala? Klisharis mekachin afilu shleib izmani. Meisivei. 1 second. Zak klal. Here's your rule. Kol hakorev biyoim. Everything that is brought during the day, a mincha, lavoyina, dam, ketayres, all this is brought during the day. Kaddish bayoim. The kedusha takes place during the day. V'chol hakorev balayla, and everything that is brought at night, right? The minchas nesachim, which is brought at night. Kiddush balayla is kaddish at night. V'chol hakorbin. And anything that is bought both day and both night, Kaddish bein b'yom bein b'layla. Ketani mias, kol hakarev b'yoyim, Kiddush b'yoyim. Now, mashma b'yoyim in b'layla loy. And since the kaimitz is bought during the day, it's only Kaddish during the day. Mashma, if you magdash it at night, it's not Kaddish. And back to the kasha. So if it's not Kaddish, why can't you go ahead and reuse it? Says the Merloy. Dilma ain't a Kaddish li karev. Maybe it's not kaddish to bring it to carbon, aval kaddish li pasal. In other words, when you say that it's not kaddish, it's only kaddish during the day, meaning if you do it at night, it doesn't mean it's not kaddish at all. If you do it at night, it's not kaddish to be able to be brought. However, it would be kaddish to the extent that it'll be pasal, that if someone would go touch it, a tful yoim, and or a kippurim, it would go ahead and be, it would pasal it. Okay? So yes, the kasha from this brisa, and we safe serve. Must Rav Zera, again, another challenge to what? To Avud Rabavin, who wants to say that Laila is not Mechus's man. Must Rav Zera. Sider es alechem v'esabazich. Okay, now, again, for just another introduction, we've had this many times. The lechem aponim, it was baked Friday, it was put on Shabbos. They would go ahead, take 2 bazichin of ketairis, of levina. They burned it on the mizbeach achitzain, mizbeach outside. That would go ahead and matter the lechem to be used. Then it would be divided up between the kahanim, the mishma going in and the mishma going out. That was the protocol. Good. So it was the burning of the vizichin that would go ahead and matter. Good. Now, with that in mind, so Maser Reb Zera, Sider es alechem v'esabazichim acha Shabbos. On a Sunday, instead of doing it on a Shabbos, you did it on a Sunday. So it's going to be how many days? It's going to be on a day less. It's going to be on a day less because Sunday is not Shabbos, so it's going to be on a day less. Now, the hikder es sabazichim b'Shabbos, and it comes the next Shabbos, you go ahead and you makta the vazichin. So you're bringing from vazichin something that's mechusas man. Good. Take out the word psula. Keitzad yaseh yanich l'Shabbos haba. Leave the lechem upon him on the shulchan for another week. Shafilu omdam al shulchan yomim rabim, even if it stands on the shulchan for many days, ein bekach klum. What? again, that's a nest. Whether it did it does is irrelevant.
It's not me.
It's not lina. It's on the mizbeach. Ve'amai. Why could you do this? According to you, Rabbi, guys, what should be? What should be Erev Shabbos? Erev Shabbos, it should be what? Ve'amai. Tigdosh, it should become at night. It should become what? Kodesh. The tifsel and then become puzzle the next day. Okay. Says Rashi. Let's see Rashi over here. Ketza Yasu, 3 lines down when it gets wide. Ketza Yasu, Yani Chenu ala Shulchan at Shabbos haba. So why is it good the next Shabbos? Tigdosh v'tipasel. Kivan the klishares mikachin shalei bizmanoi. Since the klishares can be mikadosh shalei bizmanoi. Guys, just as the klishares is magdish the kaimitz at nighttime when it's the long zman, so the lechem aponim should become kodesh when nighttime, which is shlei bizman. And now comes the next morning, lifso. It should be puzzle. V'yagdash shulchan es alechem me'echad Shabbos the puzzle. V'sida shlei bizmanoi. It should go ahead. Again, this has been on a long time. It's the wrong time that it was on. So it's this. In other words, guys, let's equate the night before a Friday night to Kmitza at night. And just like Kmitza at night, the next day, since it's gone, so to the next morning, the Lech Haponim should be gone. And you shouldn't have the Vizik and matter it. Ella must be that it's Shaloi Bizmanai, right? It must be it's not Magdash shit. Again, we're asking Rabbi. You, Rabbi, say a Chiddush. That what? That the night before, the night is not this man, but nonetheless it's Kodesh. So if the night is not this man by the Shulchan, it also should be Kodesh the night before, and then it should be possible in the morning. So how in the world can you go ahead and have the Vazich and Matal Lechem upon him? As I read the Gemara, Amar Rava, Man de Kamoisiv Shapa Kamoisiv. Anyone who asked from the Lechem upon him on the Kaimitz is asking very good. Va'avur the Rabavin Nami Mastisan Kama. Now, Avur the Rabavin, guys, remember I began, it said Tani. When I said Tani, what is that? Now, Avur the Rabavin was an Amoira, guys. So if it would have said Amar Avur the Rabavin, so you'd have an upshlag on him. Why? Because he's an Amoira and he can't argue with the Tana. But when he said Tani, he's bringing in another Tana. So all you've done now is created a machloikis between Tanoim, which has to be reconciliated. We have to figure it out. It's geschmack. So Rava said, Manda kamoisiv shapa kamoisiv. The one who's asking from lechem upon him on the kli is asking very good. You're asking for kamitza, from lechem upon him to kamitza. Just like kamitza is magdish, so too the shulchan should be magdish. The shulchan has a din of a kli shares. It should be magdish it. Mimela, you're asking very good. However, what did Rabavin? Nami Masnisan Kama. He also said a Tanoic source. Vikasava Laila, a Mechus's man. You're Mechus's man. What's the difference, therefore? Here's the difference. Laila, if you do something at night, a Mechus's man, right? So it's not Mechus's man. Why? By Erev, by Yivoker. Because nighttime really is the daytime. But Yoim, the day itself, is a Mechus's man. So Kimoti Beishimsha, when you meet Friday night, Tigdosh, it became Kodesh. Vitifso. And since it was daytime, it became Pasal. So that's the Kasha. The Kasha is, says Rashi, Amarava. Haide Kamoisiv Shapa Kamoisiv. Vavud Rabavin, the Moisvele Mine, Lav Shmait Sadam Amar. He's not saying his own thing. The name or the Toisa that he slugged up from Lechem upon him. Elamasnisan Tana. He's learning a brisa. We have to answer the likashu mesnisan adadi. It should be shver. Here's the way you should answer it. Kisava Tana Revo Laila Loi Havi Chesaron Zman Hoil B'Hoysa Ruya Lekadesh B'Kli Shares. However, Shachas Hilkach Kli Shares Mekachin Akayas B'Laila. Since it's right to work during the day, it'll work at night. Aval Yoim Mechusas Man Something that's not zman today, ad macha till the next day. Varihu mechus zman yom shalem havi chesaron zman. The koshkein zed the lechem upon him sheinu zman lekadesh ad yom Shabbos. So therefore, guys, in other words, the kli shares of Laila is magdish. Of course, it's not mechus zman, but daytime is mechus zman. So if you do something in the daytime, you're doing nothing. So since I'm doing nothing, what happens? Kimati beishimshi. When you get to Leil Shabbos Friday night, she royal kadesh machar because it's royal to kadesh the next day. Tigdish ala shulchan. It should be kadesh on the shulchan. The ka'amed Laila emechus zman. V'tipasna mishum sid the Laila l'shachos nisabalina. It's a very geshmak. So guys, so nighttime it should be kadesh. When it reaches the next day, it should be puzzle. So how do you go ahead and reconciliate the brises? That's the kasha. Good. No, the Gemara just elaborated upon the kasha. So let's do one more. Let's go. Let's outside. Let's get it outside. Said the father Rabavin that if you go ahead and let's focus on forget shchita and malika. Let's focus on not only one thing. Let's focus on kmitza. You're doing kmitza at night. If you did, it's supposed to be done during the day. You did it at night. It's puzzle. Why is it puzzle? Because even though you can't bring it at nighttime, it's kaddish. Anything at night is not mechus zman. Daytime, let's say something that's supposed to be bought on the 8th day, you bought it on the 7th day. That's mechus zman, right? It's not. That's not the same. So here you have you need to bring the lechem upon him when you have to bring it on Shabbos. So Friday, that it was on Fridays is not a problem. Friday night already is nighttime. Nighttime goes after the next day. So therefore it should be kodesh that day. Now what happens when it comes the morning? It should be puzzle. Yeah, why did we say in the brisa that the vazichin will matter it and the kohen will be able to eat it? So now we have a stira. Why by kamitza do we say it's puzzle at night and the next day you got to burn it? And over here it's puzzle at night and the next day it's kodesh at night. The next day it's puzzle, and yet you could eat it. That vazichin can matter it. That's akasha. So he says the Gemara, Am Ravina, shekadim v'silka, you took it off. Shekadim v'silka, you took it off. So it wasn't on the klishars to be kodesh. And therefore you put it on the next day. So you took it off and you put it back on. You were missing. It was what? You have to be lechem shulchan l'fanei tamid. Okay, it's another problem. But it's not going to passel the lechem. Mazuch v'yitem Rav Ashi Amar afilu tema b'shaloi kodem b'solku. Now, who put this on? When did they put this on? Sunday, a week before. Good. That's not the time it's supposed to be put on, right? Is there a difference between putting it on in the wrong time and putting a koimitz in the wrong time? Could be. When you did the kamitza, right? When you did the kamitza, you did a kamitza, right? You did the protocol of kamitza, you just happened to do it what? At the wrong time. If you put on the shulchan at the wrong time, it's not the case that you didn't even put it on. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's the wrong time. So says the Gemara, listen to this. Says Avashi, I feel the time of B'shloi Kodem V'silka. Kimish is sidrei shloikim mitzvasai. Since you masader it not in the incorrect way, shloikim mitzvasai. Nasa k'maish sidru akaif. It's almost like a monkey put it on. Let's not go there. It's almost like a monkey put it on. Now, if you put it on in the morning, then you got a problem because it's this man. So it's a very big difference between a kamitza, which is an action action of logic, and an avoida, if you will, as opposed to sida, which is simply an act of placing. That's not an avoida. It's the act of placing. It's the act of placing. So now let's chazer what we saw. Okay, we have what's our sugya? The sugya we began is that they blew the carbon, right? At moonlight they went ahead and they shechted the carbon. It went out to the base of Sreifa. Avua the Rabbi took it a step further. He drew the analogy between shchita, malika, and kamitza. And he said, just like shchita in the wrong time, it's Pesach Sreifa, so too malika in the wrong time, and so too kamitza in the wrong time. Fred the Gemara. 1 second. There's a big difference between shchita and kamitza. Shchita and malika, there's no going back. Kamitza is the going back. And for the Gemara, there's no going back. Why? Because he did everything right. He just did it in the wrong time. But the kedusha would be there. Since it's kaddish, there's no going back. Fred the Gemara from lechem aponim, there is going back. You see lechem aponim, if you do in the wrong time, you could go back. And for the Gemara, two terutzim. And lechem aponim, there never was kaddish because they took it off. Or because the lechem aponim, no action was done. Since it was the wrong time, it wasn't considered as if it was on. So if it's on at nighttime, it doesn't mean anything. If it's on in nighttime, you left it on to the day, then it'll be a problem. But it said, but since you put it on, if no, if you put it on the day, that day, if you put it on in the morning, I guess that would be putting on. Masha'en came, when you put it on at a time that you shouldn't have put on, that's considered ma'aser koif. And therefore, even if it's on, it will be kodesh as a result of the sila. Yes, what's your question?
Once you put the lymph in the clay